Chuck is what I would be saying if I had the right version of the plushie, not this Star Trek Barney looking ass. That joke is overdone already. Angry Birds. You know the video game. Birds decide to commit mass vandalism against the worst engineers imaginable that has over 5 billion downloads and too many different variants. Now I must ask you, how does one make a full-length feature film about a simple mobile game like this? Well, that's what Rovio, the original company behind the game, decided to go for back in 2016. To give a little bit of background, the Angry Birds movie released on May 13th, 2016, and these Rotten Tomatoes scores make me want to reconsider my life choices. However, its sequel seems to have scored better with critics, so if it was so bad, why the hell did it get a sequel?
Money!
The movie had a $73 million budget and did pretty decent in the box office, totaling over $352.3 million, which in combination with the extremely low Rotten Tomatoes and audience score leads me to believe that when this movie actually came out, it had a very clear audience. Kids. This is why video game adaptations usually don't do well. At the very least, don't expect a movie about a mobile game directed towards little Timmy on mom's iPad to sit well with adults. You know how resistant some parents are to the current trends. But my beliefs may be one thing. What if the kids hated it but the parents actually loved it? Well, there's only one place where we'll find that out. We look at the reviews. Let's get into it. The Angry Birds movie is shockingly well targeted towards both kids and adults, and possibly more towards adults, as there are several adult jokes hidden within the movie that, although will not faze kids, adults will get a kick out of. I feel like that's a bit overstated. I don't think that's very true, but yeah. The animation is beautiful and the characters are genuinely funny and unique. Okay. I just thought it was boring, dull, and a bit dated in terms of the film's amount of pop culture references and toilet humor. It's just not the movie for me. Fair. Went to see this at the drive-in, and about halfway through the movie, my kid puked up his milkshake, and we had to leave. Him puking was the best part of the movie because it gave us a reason to leave. Oh, Jesus Christ. How bad is this? Now, with all the necessary background out of the way, it's time to analyze the movie's plot and find out if that low rating is accurate, or it's just some angry Karens who were pissed that they weren't paid for their cameos.
I'll just go ahead and say this right now. There's really not much to this opening scene, other than it's a reenactment of modern day fast food delivery drivers. Apparently this red bird, creatively named Red, was hired to be a clown for a child's birthday party. He literally gets backhanded in the face by this Kevin over here, who claims he was late when in reality he really wasn't. So honestly, what happens next is pretty much well deserved. However, he ends up slipping on his way out and prematurely hatches their kid. But seriously, when have you seen any normal family leave their fucking baby outside? It's here we get a little bit of background on Red as a character. The cliche abandoned as a chick and nobody liked the protagonist because he looked different from everybody else. Bland backstory honestly, but this still serves as excellent meme material. This lands Red in some legal trouble with Judge Furby over here.
Your Honor? And you're what? And I'm just approximating here, like an inch tall? What are you...
He's truly a detriment to his community, more like the enlightened one, honestly. And so he was given the harshest punishment available by the law, anger management classes. Ooh. After roughing up this coconut contraption that looks like something a Make-A-Wish kid made because for some reason monotonous sound seems to anger him, he enters the anger management class where the closest thing to a Karen, no, an actual Karen bird, jump scares him and leads him to the rest of the group. And holy shit, it's Chuck. Alright, that's all we need to see. I don't care about the others. Fine. The others are formally introduced as Care Matilda, Bomb, FBI, open up! And Jesus Christ, I don't even want to say his name because he honestly might crush me. But some of you guys would like to see that, wouldn't you? After an explosive ending to the session, Chuck and Bomb try to make conversation with Red shutting that down pretty quickly, preferring to be isolated from literally everyone else. Literally. Although it's fairly assumed that it's mainly the town that doesn't want him, than Red not wanting them, since he does give off a plethora of negative energy everywhere he goes. And we cut to the next day where he's back in his anger management class, in which everyone was given the task of reading a poem that they were supposed to have written the night prior, which to no one's surprise, Red showed up empty-handed. But you know who doesn't show up empty-handed? Chuck. Yeah, let's just say none of the group took that news quite nicely. But 2 seconds later, decide to trample over the damn thing anyway. Good lesson. Some commotion was caused by some unknown visitors making landfall on Bird Island.
Hurry! Something's coming!
Yeah, me. The visitor made himself known as Leonard, who represents Piggy Island. He claims to come in peace, and the birds being, well, the happy-go-lucky birds we come to know thus far, decide to throw a welcoming party in their honor, instead of questioning why they were there in the first place. Of course, Red, sharing the same ideology, seems to be the only one who doesn't like the new folk.
You know, they're just walking around naked, just presenting themselves. I'm looking at all their business here.
That part about them I really admire.
Chuck? What? The pigs introduce a familiar sight to anyone who has even seen the Angry Birds game, which honestly brings me to a point which I want to mention on why most movie adaptations of games fail. The writers try to make it too much like the game itself to the point where they're force-feeding the game mechanics even if they don't make sense in the story, just to please what people were promised when they paid for their ticket. This isn't a YouTube video, Rovio. You can think out of the box. It's much harder to leave a movie theater than an online video. Anyways, Leonard asked for a volunteer from the audience to try out the slingshot, but picks Red because he was the only one who showed no enthusiasm to both the slingshot and to anything the pigs have brought since their arrival, which actually is a bit of foreshadowing for a little bit later down the road, but we'll get into that. After reenacting Among Us, Red decides to confirm his suspicions about the sudden arrival of the pigs, with the accompaniment of Chuck and Bomb, of course, mostly because they have nothing else better to do, but that's when they find out that they were attempting to do some Trojan horse shit. Confronted about the discovery, Leonard explains that he was keeping the rest of the pigs a secret from the birds in order to test their hospitality on whether or not it was suitable for the pigs and the birds to coexist. And instead of questioning this reasoning further, the birds instantly turn on Red for trying to sour their relationships with the pigs, who further condemns him to more anger management classes, and Red storms off, still maintaining his suspicions. The coexistence of the pigs and birds goes on for the next couple of days, seeming to accommodate for the birds, except for Red, but that is until the pigs are formally introduced to the eggs. And it is here that the true intention of their visit is revealed to the audience. But Jesus Christ, Leonard, that's a fucking baby. This has got to put him on some sort of list, right? Red, feeling like he has no other choice, decides to convince Chuck and Bomb to help him reach Mighty Eagle for guidance, the all-encompassing guardian of Bird Island. Only thought of to be as a myth at this point, but I think Chuck has a different view of Mighty Eagle than the rest of the birds. The journey is actually rather short, but boy is it annoying, both for Red and for anyone else in the audience over the age of 5. When they finally reach the oasis that Mighty Eagle is believed to reside, Bomb and Chuck decide to swim in the sacred water. Don't let these two loose in any place of worship, but boy did they learn their lesson real fast. Okay, real talk, this scene, although meant to be comical, went on for a bit too long, and if there was any parents in the audience, they definitely gave their kids the belt for dragging them into this. It's here we are formally introduced to Mighty Eagle, who quickly is made out to be a narcissistic pervert who is nothing like the legend that Red grew up to believe. And after an obscenely long sequence of the eagle gloating about himself, Red realizes that the sinister plan the pigs set to achieve since their arrival was finally being executed, distracting the birds with a major rager to finally steal all the eggs on Bird Island. Red, now proven right, accuses Mighty Eagle for doing nothing to help, and despite being the only bird on the island that is capable enough to fly them down to stop the pigs, he just flat out refuses, setting the final nail in the coffin for Mighty Eagle as Red's idol. And by the time they reach the village, it's already too late. The pigs have already begun to make their predictable getaway as they all just sit there and watch, and Chuck continues to be tone deaf to the situation. I mean, seriously though, they couldn't have just stopped one of the pigs from running right past them? Can you just imagine what would happen if I tried stealing some eggs from someone's house in the real world?
It's you again! Oh shit. Oh hell no. Yeah, keep that in there.
The next morning, yes, morning, apparently the entire village stayed to party. They all came to find out that the eggs had been taken by the pigs, with the village entirely ravaged. And of course, they all turned to Red for guidance since he was the one who tried to warn them all. Totally not predictable story arc at all. And instead of Red being a Chad and saying "F them for not listening," as any normal person would probably do in his shoes, of course he gets turned on by all the attention he's receiving, and assumes the role of leadership in their revenge tour. They somehow build a raft out of the rubble left behind and that cursed thing for some reason, even though Red hasn't explained the whole plan yet, and follow the trail of carnage left behind by the pigs because ocean currents don't exist in this world. This Titanic reference though is pretty cool, I must admit. The pigs, however, celebrate their victory and proclaim a feast of the eggs later that night, with Leonard being revealed as the king of the pigs, if it wasn't obvious enough. Also, I love cholesterol. Well, I hope you love doctor's visits too. Let's be honest, they probably don't exist on this island. But finally, We get to the scene all the diehard Angry Birds fans were expecting, and does it live up to the hype? Nah, it's about as predictable as it gets. The birds get on the force-fed game mechanic to pummel Piggy City in an effort to reach the castle where the eggs are being held. They go one by one, showing more force-fed game mechanics until Terrence breaks the slingshot from his sheer weight. I probably shouldn't have laughed out loud as much as I did when I first saw this, but here we are. I'm gonna get canceled now, aren't I? Meanwhile, Mighty Eagle decides to play the Rickroll song and attempt to finally fly after years of retirement. Almost like the same redemption arc as Doc Hudson from Cars, but years of sitting on his ass really catches up with him. Realizing that they're running out of time, Leonard decides the time for feasting is now and starts the long process of preparing the eggs. And that time, Red, Chuck, and Bum all are the only ones who are able to gain entry into the castle, and without difficulty make it to the dining hall, where Mighty Eagle finally turns up, with the help of Red of course, since he's blind as a bat over here. Eagles have great eyesight, my ass. Mighty Eagle is able to grab hold of the net of eggs, and right before they're able to make the rescue, Leonard grabs a hold of Red, causing one of the eggs to come loose and fall back into the castle. Red, being so addicted to gain the recognition as a hero, decides to stay back and save the last egg while the others make a mad dash to safety, unlike Bomb here.
I blew up on purpose!
That statement wouldn't float well with anyone today. Red gets in a final fight with Leonard, which eventually leads him to his conveniently placed room full of dynamite, which is another force-fed game mechanic, and Jesus Christ, Leonard, you are the biggest idiot in movie history. The rest of the birds are reunited with their eggs, except for that one bird couple that was really the only couple that had screen time this entire movie, and before they leave empty-handed, Red finally emerges from the rubble with the rescued egg, which now hatched, revealing the blue triplets. Force-fed game mechanic. The birds return home, and now Red, seen as a hero, is formally welcomed into the community with his house being rebuilt inside the town square. But the real ending here is that Terrence finally got some
And that's the movie. 0 out of 10. Needs more Chuck. Bye. Just kidding. But there is some truth to that statement. In concept, the movie seems like a great idea, as do all the studios who make video game adaptations think. And I will admit, with the cards they were dealt, I feel like this is the best thing they could have came up with. The animation, however, is the movie's strongest attribute. Rovio did extremely well developing the animation and making it visually appealing for the viewer, as well as the casting. Red specifically felt like he fit the character, and I don't think there's any issues with any of the casting decisions. However, I do think this film would have benefited greatly from not literally force-feeding... I do think the film would have benefited greatly from not literally force-feeding the audience game mechanics, because the kids who play this game extensively enough to go see a movie about it need to see a memorable character or feature every 5 seconds. Now, despite all of this, the movie was a booming success in the box office, which resulted in the creation of a sequel. Why? Because the people under the age of 5 that the movie catered to, with pee jokes and nipple jokes and other humor catered to this audience. However, I have not seen the sequel yet, but with it reaching far better reviews overall, it is safe to say that Rovio took feedback from the general public afterwards, aka not kids, and with the money they made from the first film, made something actually watchable. Now, in selecting a best and worst scene from the movie, I went for the court scene at the beginning. The jokes here were actually well executed and the characters were all pretty goofy in their own right, which made the scene actually make me crack a few laughs. But you know what didn't make me laugh? Fucking this. I don't think there's a single person who watched through this and actually laughed. If anything, I think everyone felt immediately uncomfortable just watching this, myself included, and the scene went on for way too long to be acceptable. Overall, this movie is the definition of a failed success. And if I watched this back in 2016, I would not have wanted a sequel to be made of this. With that, I will give the Angry Birds movie a 4 out of 10. And the reason why this doesn't get anything lower is because Chuck actually made this thing slightly watchable. But let me know what you guys think. Is my rating and opinion valid? Did you watch the movie when it came out? What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and leave a like if you genuinely found this content interesting to you, because it lets me know to keep going with this type of content. Oh, and before you go, it has come to my attention that most of you are new viewers to the channel. First off, welcome, and second, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button and the bell notification if you want to be updated when a new video goes live. I cover a multitude of animated movies, as well as action or thriller, so if that fits your fancy, then you know what will fit my fancy. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe later, but you're gonna have to pay for that. Sorry. Now if you excuse me, I gotta burn any remnants of non-Chuck characters in my house.